Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right. I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys. We're so happy to have you here.
Yes, welcome to our magical circle. I feel like today we have a lot to talk about. The world's going through a lot of changes, a lot of hardships, and it's hard to ignore. So I think that's kind of where we're going to start things for today, is talking about what's going on in the world, or America, I should say.
I know. I mean, so we have the situation where there's riots for Black Lives Matter going on as we're recording this. And I know last week things started in most cities, but for us, it's just kind of starting now.
As far as the riots breaking out, you mean?
Yeah, as far as the riots breaking out.
And this is all in response to the death of George Floyd, who was brutally murdered on camera on broad daylight in the streets by a cop.
Right. Which is not the first time. No. And it's extremely unfortunate that we are not learning from our mistakes. And I got into a deep discussion with my kids about it this week.
I think that's important to do, actually, in your households, to spread awareness and facts.
Right. And I don't care how old my kids are. I know they're all adults, but we sat down and just had some real good conversation. It's just crazy because why can't we just accept everybody for who they are? I could go into a rant about how it's because of politics and religion, and we just can't. Our lines are so blurred. And everybody has this pissing contest if I'm right and I'm right and I'm right. I just wish that we could speak more love to each other.
I think there's also this blindness to the racism. I think there's a lot of us that, or maybe told when we're growing up, that we're all equal, so therefore there is no racism, we're all on the same playing field. But if you look at everything systemically and you look at the abuse of power that some cops, not all cops, have shown towards minorities, this system is kind of against Black lives. And I think that as white allies, we have to stand up and we have to fight, and you kind of got to think locally to act globally. So you just need to get involved by either like calling Congress or legislation and letting them know what is going on and what you're fighting for, voting, talking about it with your family, spreading awareness.
Right.
Like there's just so many things, and these riots are really hard and scary to watch. But I feel like rioting, like I think what is the Martin Luther King quote? I can't remember, but he talks about how rioting is just kind of the voice of the injustice, and it's just like a visual representation of the injustice that's going on around us.
Right. But when he was talking about that, he wasn't meaning for everybody to destroy local businesses. And there's a way to protest and there's a way not to protest. And I can't ever get behind us destroying our small businesses in our own towns.
It's pretty sad because I don't even know what's going on as far as what businesses are getting attacked, if it's just random, but it's just like that's someone's whole life savings and dreams. Those are small businesses. It's not like a Walmart that's getting attacked. It's like mom, pa restaurants. And it's there's a lot of unfortunate waves that are going on because of these riots. Of course, I think we've already had deaths going on in the riots.
Yes. Yeah, none in our city, thank goodness, but I do feel for all of them. And my empathic emotions are off the charts. And just as we're talking about it, I'm feeling extremely emotional. It's taking a lot for me to not break down and just bawl my eyes out because I feel all this pain of the world. It's just really sad.
I mean, how could you not feel that outrage? Anyone empathic or not watching that video, a lot of the times I avoid the news because I don't want to feel shitty.
Sure.
I avoid watching any video where I know someone dies in it, but this felt important to witness. It felt important to look at. And so, when you're watching the cell phone footage, it does make you really emotional, and it's super sad
Yeah.
It's super messed up, but
Right.
it's something that I think is going to create change, and that's the only thing that we can really hope for, that this ugliness will spark that change that we need to see.
Sure. It's I had someone this morning, one of my friends, she posted some pictures. She had to drive through our downtown to take one of her kids to work, and some people spray painted our Capitol building and all the area right across the street from our Capitol.
What? Really? Was it just random stuff,
It
or
was all
was it any kind of message? Or
it said Black Lives Matter. It was saying
wow.
police suck. It said fuck Trump. It said fuck the police. And it was just basically hate stuff. But why would they choose to do that? Graffiti really isn't the answer in my mind. This is architecture that we've had in our town for a hundred years or more, and to just have it all like that, it made me really emotional because I've enjoyed a lot of time in that space. And I go back to when we went to the women's riot or women's march downtown, in that same exact space, and none of us chose to use graffiti to get our point across. We used our words.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a place that's the hub of politics in the town. So if someone's got anger, they're going to take it out there. You know, that's where all of our protests do take place.
Mm-hmm.
And it can definitely erupt from there. That sounds like something probably a white person had the privilege of doing, because I feel like if you are a black person in America and you're caught breaking the law, like George
Mm-hmm.
Floyd, and all you did was had like a counterfeit $20 bill, you could lose your life. So
Right.
like that just sounds like someone who was white who's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go around spray painting, because what are they gonna do? They're not gonna kill me in the streets.
It
um
made me think that kids were doing it because
Probably.
we get the same exact graffiti like stuff in my neighborhood at the local school.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's the same kind of wording that they use, like the where that the letters were written looked exactly the same to me. And typically in our neighborhood, they draw penises.
I was gonna say I cannot really diss this person for tagging, because I have tagged not like anything badass or cool. I can't even really call it tagging. All I spray painted property and did property damage as a kid, just thinking it
Oh,
was fun, and it was penises, of course. So at least
gotcha.
these people are doing it in a sense that they're fighting for what's right. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
doesn't really bother me as far as like an injustice. I feel like they'll clean it. Our capital has been burned down like twice and
True.
rebuilt. Like it'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
But
true. That's
there's just so many injustices. So I get what you're saying. Like it sucks when you're taking it out on the communities, but sometimes it's the voices of the people who aren't being welcomed in the communities that have to lash out.
that's true. That's true.
There's this weird, I don't know, gray area almost. It's like I can't say it's right, it's not wrong. It's just this fucked upness.
Right. And I feel like in our community specifically, we don't have just Black Lives Matter, but we also have a large Hispanic community, and they get crapped on just as much, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody speaks out for them. And so I feel like they need to be spoken up for too, because it's all lives matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really know the slogan for that as far
I
as
know, right? Right. But
that.
I know plenty of my Hispanic friends that they don't get paid as much, or they have to take a crappy job because nobody will hire them because they're different.
Yeah, or even the school systems, like we heard at the
Right.
women's rights, and even from my own siblings who are currently going through the school systems, they have seen and witnessed racism.
Right.
It's just not really equal. America is not equal. It is not, and they're always trying to rewrite history about everything in the past and slavery and what everything
Hmm.
stands for and what everything we did. And it's just I think everyone's over it. Like we need to expose the truth, that way we can accept it and kind of heal it, which is kind of like our main message of today's episode, I feel like.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody needs to just do some shadow work and grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Before we move into our main experience, did you want to talk about some cool shit you experienced this week?
Yes, I had one small thing. I mean, I guess it wasn't really small, it was kind of large to me, but um, last night I had some severe potty pain yesterday because of some things that I did. I just overdid it
I've
yesterday, so I
never heard
needed
that
to take a bath.
expression, potty pain.
Body.
Oh my god! I
Body.
this whole time I thought that was like a way of saying like you had bad shits. I'm so glad I clarified.
No. Body.
Okay,
And my
sorry to hear
bones were aching. I was just getting old, so just overdid it physically. And so I decided to take a hot bath last night. Um, and you know how in the faucet, I don't know about your guys' bathrooms, but my faucet, it's like almost like a platinum, not platinum, but you can see into it, so you can see the things behind you. So like I could see my towel up hanging on the rack, and it looked
that. Oh,
like a
like
little,
reflecting in like a weird
yeah,
wonky way.
so it looked like a little ghost. But then I noticed behind me this kind of shadow in the corner of my tub, and I was like, no, it's just a reflection. It's got to be just a reflection. But then I saw the reflection move and actually come into full view where I could see face, hair, clothes. And I immediately started protecting my space, doing protection spells, cleansing, putting protection on myself, because I immediately went into fear mode instead of.
You never
Which
do
I
that.
never do that, but this was so real.
So this was like a shadow person?
It wasn't a shadow. I could see a full person.
Oh fuck. Did you
Like
turn your head to look? Were too scared?
I did. Yeah, I
Oh my
turned my head
god.
and looked, and there was nothing there, but I could
What?
feel coldness. And when I looked back, I could see them in the reflection, but I couldn't see them with my eyes. So I could still see the reflection. And I was like, their face in a way was familiar to me, but not familiar to me. And so I'm still trying to pinpoint who it is, and I'm going to be working on that. But it was definitely a male person, and he was wearing a white shirt and had a like a flannel over the top, almost
Mm-hmm.
like a button-up kind of shirt, and it was open. And
Sounds like someone from the Pacific Northwest.
right. And I was like, I just don't know who it was, but my immediate response was to feel like, what are you doing in my bathtub when I'm taking a bath? You know, you should be seeing me when I'm not in this space. So of course I got freaked out. I think that's why it was, just because I was in a vulnerable place. I wasn't clothed, you know. And so I was just my immediate gut reaction was to protect my space, and after my full protection was done, that person was gone.
Weird.
But I'll definitely be trying to tap into it. I don't want to run away from it, but at the time I was like, what the heck?
So they were only in the reflection of the metal. You couldn't
Yes.
see them when you looked over. That is the craziest shit, because like how much of pop culture media has been centered around being scared of your fucking bathtub? I swear. It's like it
Right.
makes you scared of your bathtub. There was this Are You Afraid of the Dark episode in the 90s that made me really afraid of showers, because there was this creepy ghost that would like come through the drains.
Yes, I remember that.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was literally afraid to shower, like, which is just not good for any kid, because kids are already stinky. So that is really, really scary that that's happening. I have never heard of a phenomenon like that. Maybe where it kind of happens in mirrors, I guess. So it's just the same concept.
Right.
And we're always
That's
talking about how mirrors are portals, because that and even water are like portals because they have that reflective
yes.
surface. So does this mean anything reflective can attract or be a portal, basically, to the paranormal?
Maybe.
Ooh. Sometimes it just really freaks me out because there's just so much that's unknown and lurking, and my imagination, it freaks me out.
Right.
But you're really experiencing this stuff, so, and you were afraid, which makes me feel like I should be afraid, because if you're afraid, it's not just your average Joe ghost, it's something menacing.
Right. I think that had it been in my kitchen, in my living room,
Okay.
in my garage, I might not have been as scared.
Okay.
I don't think I would have been as scared, but
you were naked, and that was horrifying.
Yeah, I was like, this is my private space. I don't want anybody in here. Unless you're a goddess and I'm doing bath magic.
Yeah, if I invoke you, you're welcome.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So it was just really, the timing was not right.
And so I just have to, I'm going to do some work to try to to get that out. I've enlisted another empath to maybe help me with it. So we'll see if I can get some more answers. So.
Okay, Charles Xavier, just enlisting the help of some X-Men.
Yeah. We'll get to the bottom of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds cool, though. I'm wondering if that will involve ghost hunting or what you're gonna do, but
We'll see. We will see.
you'll let us know.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
should we get on to our main topic?
Yes, I think it is finally time for us to talk about shadow work, something we've
Yes.
briefly mentioned and wanted to tackle for a minute now.
Yes. Yes. And we had a listener who wanted us to talk about it more in depth too. So here we go.
Mm-hmm. So I think that we should probably just break down the concept of the shadow self and shadow work, just, make it tangible for anyone who's never heard of it before. So maybe
Right.
we should start by talking about like what exactly is the concept of the shadow self.
Yes.
And I know that it's always tied to Carl Jung. I think he was the founder of the term shadow self, or maybe just one of the main people who started writing about it. But it's just like a psychological term for anything that we can't really see in ourselves right away. And it could be stuff that we don't like about ourselves, qualities that we're denying, or even traumas, whether it be like big traumas or little traumas, and things like that. How would you describe the shadow self?
Maybe that could also be like your repressed memories. I guess when I think of the shadow self, I think of it as things that I need to work on that I see in myself that are a little bit darker.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's how I would think of the shadow self. It's those dark parts of me that I don't really like.
Right. And even like society, all the pressure that we all receive, it kind of has this like snowball effect on you, and all these expectations and these judgments like that are put on us from day one. Like you kind of carry that weight in like an invisible bag around, and that can be a lot. It can actually cause to becoming physically ill or feeling bad about yourself, and that's like all encompassed in your shadow.
Right.
So that's something that I think it's important for everyone to actually look at, spend time reflecting on, and working on.
Exactly.
That stuff can be really hard to process, though. So, for any of our
Mm-hmm.
listeners that are interested in doing shadow work, I think you want to start when you're ready and you have like a strong foundation kind of thing.
And then don't
So,
overwhelm yourself. So choose a topic and stick with that topic until you're thoroughly done with it.
that's also good advice. Yeah. So, maybe we should talk about what is and how you actually do shadow work.
Yes. Okay. So how do you do your shadow work? Because
So
I think it's different for everybody.
I think that you just want to center yourself. You kind of get into a quiet place where you're going to be undisturbed. Maybe if you can like literally only give yourselves 5-10 minutes at the end of a day to actually process what happened to you during maybe even just that specific day. Like if you really want to take it like kind of just that way, you could really do it a daily exercise where there's times where people say something to you and it kind of like it stings or it hurts or it feels like a slap in the face and it gets some sort of an emotional reaction out of you. You kind of want to look back at all those high emotional reactions you had during the day and see what triggered it. If someone said something to you and they just really pissed you off, it could be because it's something that you realize as a trait in yourself, like that person was being really rude to me, what an asshole, and then you just like linger on that all day. They could kind of be, it could be like a mirror to showing yourself like a quality you see in them, like that rudeness, maybe you have it in yourself. So you always just kind of want to look at those emotional highs and examine them and see like, why did I get so affected when this person said that? Oh, it's attached to this issue that I had stemming from when I was a kid and this happened. And really once you start acknowledging the shadow and the source of the shadow, that's when you can start to heal the shadow, accept yourself, and integrate it into yourself so it's not stuck in the back of your mind kind of plaguing you. It's just a part of you and you're aware of it kind of thing.
Right. So you either accept it or you change the behavior. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to act like that anymore, you just don't act like that anymore. But you may have to forgive yourself in the past or forgive whoever it was who caused the trauma in the first place.
Exactly. Forgiveness. That's the perfect way to put it because you do have to go into shadow work with kind of unconditional love for yourself, which
Right.
means you have to accept maybe something you have about yourself that you don't really like. And
Right.
just remind yourself that we're all human, we're all connected, we're all one, and really
Mhm.
kind of fill yourself with that love and that light and that white energy, or however you want to visualize it. You can even put your hand on your heart and just focus on like loving energy. And when you're pouring that love into that aspect of yourself that doesn't feel whole or doesn't feel quite right, that shadow self, that's kind of another way you can go about reprogramming your brain, releasing whatever shame or guilt you have, and you're going to transform those emotions with your love and your self-compassion.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's okay that we have shadows. I think is a key too. It's okay. We're all human. No one is perfect. No guru is perfect. No
Right.
witch is perfect. Like we all have things like ego, pride,
Yes.
um, and things like that. Shame, sadness, fear, guilt. There's so many things that each human has to examine. And I think the more that you're gonna give yourself time to reflect and do the shadow work, the more whole you are, and the more you evolve as a person, and the more you evolve as an adult, kind of just accepting and
Hmm.
embracing yourself.
Hmm. Absolutely. I like that you mentioned guilt because that's kind of a big one. I feel like that's something that everybody struggles with, even on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we may have guilt because we didn't call somebody back right away. We may have guilt because we spent too much money. Um, we need to find out, like you were saying earlier, just where that stems from in ourselves. Why are we reacting that way?
Yeah, find the stem, find the root, pick it out like
Mhm.
a weed kind of thing.
Right. Don't forget those roots, because if you just do the surface work, you're not getting the full problem. It's just like a weed. So if you are picking up a weed in the backyard, it's still going to grow back if you don't fully take care of it. And you have to mend the wound. So you don't just pull it out, you also have to mend it, and maybe put some medicine on it. That means a lot of meditation afterwards. And don't just jump from one subject to the next after the next after the next without fully healing the wound.
Right. And it's okay, I think, if you have to tell yourself the same things, maybe multiple sessions. It's not going to just
Hmm.
all go away, all these problems from one trauma, maybe.
Right.
And that's completely normal. And there's a lot of
Right.
techniques that I've heard of or tried that you can do, that I think are important to talk about, because for some people this might be a foreign concept and they're like, what the hell are you talking about, Sharon? What is shadow
Right.
work? So one way you could do it is you could even just literally just sit down when you're doing this quiet time and you're thinking about whatever it is you want to focus on that day, and you'll almost kind of interview your shadow. Imagine this shadow self sitting in front of you, and you'll ask them questions, um, and you'll kind of answer it in your own mind. And sure, that sounds like a crazy person thing to do, but trust me, psychologists say this is okay, this is valid, this is a good form for dealing with your shit. So if you ask questions like, why are you doing this to me? Why am I affected by this? What do you want from me? What do you want me to know? What are you trying to show me or teach me? When you ask these questions, you can either just go through it in your mind, or you can journal it and actually write it out. And it's
Mhm.
a really powerful process to figure out all the way to the root, like Wendy's saying, go all the way down and get that shit out. And I usually feel like I'm doing good shadow work when I'm doing that in some form or manner, and I'm also crying and I'm letting it fucking go,
Right.
baby. And
Yeah.
that's how I know I've hit it. I'm like, oh yeah, the bitch is crying, we're here.
Right. Right.
That's
And
just
you're
me
allowing
personally.
yourself, right. And you're allowing yourself to feel those emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, because
Process.
otherwise you're just repressing it, and repression is what causes the root to spread. So,
Right. And that's another thing I've been shamed for a lot of my life, was my sensitivity, was my emotions, was
right.
acknowledging my emotions and voicing my emotions. You're told you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that, but it's actually a really good thing to process your emotions, and not just shove them down, like put them in a bottle sort of to blow up
Right.
on somebody later. So this is kind of
Exactly.
what shadow work is going to prevent. It's going to prevent it so you're not as triggered next time you're faced with these situations.
Right. It's funny because I know when I first started doing shadow work, I thought of it because I'm sort of sometimes literal. So I actually thought of it as that there were all these boxes in my brain where I
Mm-hmm.
stored certain things and I had to empty each box one at a time to kind of deal with the shit. And so I wrote down questions for myself in regards to a specific emotion. Like this week, I was working on my heart and I realized that I haven't been feeling as much as I normally would feel. And I think that's because years ago I had all these deaths in my life and I stopped feeling at that point as much. And I had cried so much during that time. I haven't really allowed myself to cry a whole lot since then. And so I've been working really hard this week on that heart chakra and that heart feeling
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get to the root of to why I stopped feeling with my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized with the questions that I was asking myself that it was because I didn't want to feel any pain.
Yep.
Um,
That's me right now. Or my whole life,
and
maybe.
right. And pain is so raw and emotions are so raw that it's it's hard to deal with them sometimes, just as any everyday person. And I feel like for me, my emotions become extremely elevated and sometimes quickly, but I was really fully feeling with this heart. And so this week I allowed myself to watch romance movies again, which I hadn't done in years, and allowed myself to feel the emotions of the characters and
Oh,
allowed myself to cry. And I had not done that in more than 5 years.
that
And
sounds
it's
like it
something
was cathartic for
that,
you.
yes, it was really cathartic. Um, it was good. And I wrote a lot. Journal writing is huge for me. And you don't have to write it, you can type it too or speak it however, whatever works for you. You can record your messages and listen back to them if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of ways that you can process through shit.
Right,
Because if you don't, you're gonna just never grow. You're never gonna release it. You're never gonna heal. So it's
right,
super important, and I think that society will tell you like you're weak if you cry, like I was saying, or you even get shamed for watching just those romantic movies. I know, like it's like, oh, those are chick flicks. That those aren't real movies. They're lame, or they're cheesy. But like you're saying, just enjoy it. Let it do its thing and ride that
right.
wave and feel those emotions, and it's a healthy thing.
I think too, I was looking at it um, what love was and what unrealistic expectations we put on love
Oh
sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah. And our ideals that we put on love instead of letting love flow.
I think that there is a societal trajectory of love too. Like it's like, oh, you have to meet someone, you can't have sex, but then you do have to get married, and then you have to procreate, and you have to do it this order and this way, and spend
Right.
this amount of money on a ring, or spend this amount of money on this, or you're not good enough. And so there's like so many things that are just projected onto love in general. You could
Mm-hmm.
you could just, oh my god, we could have a whole podcast just on love if we wanted.
Right.
It is
And
one
I
of those crazy things.
exactly. Yeah. And because I feel like love is changing so much now in today's environment, we have different types of people who love differently and accept each other.
We all are faced with different shame, and it could be the shame that you do love differently in a society where you are like almost forced to be hetero, it feels like,
Mm-hmm.
where that's what's expected to you. So that's a
Right.
big shadow work thing that I think a lot of people would want to do, is to heal themselves and tell themselves that they are fucking amazing the way that they are, and
Right.
to fuck whatever people are telling you you need to be.
Yeah.
um, because when we have shadows, it kind of distorts your reality, and it puts this boundary between the way we actually view ourselves and how we actually behave in reality. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're acting like an asshole or rude or this or that, or you are guarding yourselves, it's because there's something there you're trying to protect.
Yeah.
So you just have to really train yourself to notice your shadow, um, and see what's going on.
It's like if you're looking at the universe, it says, this is what your body is made of. This is how your molecules will move back and forth. It doesn't tell us about feelings. and all the stipulations that we put on feelings are man-made.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not made by the universe. The universe didn't say, oh, you know what, you have to marry, male and female only have to marry each other. The universe didn't do that. Man did that.
Right.
Oh, you can't fall in love with that person. The universe didn't say that. Man said you couldn't fall in love with those people.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We do live in a very corrupt society of Earth. It's a
Yeah.
harsh reality. And I think that it's important for each person to be in charge of their mental health and their
Mm,
mental health growth. And it's not talked about nearly enough. It's not talked about in school. It's not talked
no.
about enough within the families. A lot of the times, families are the most suppressed as far as emotions. Like, they don't together talk about emotions or feelings. Like, it all goes very much like swept under the table, swept under the rug. And so
Right.
I think it's important that when you talk about shadow work, you just are letting people know that, like, talking about the underbelly of everything that's wrong with you as a person, it's okay. It's okay to heal ourselves. It's okay. You know, we're all going to get through this, and we just have to deal with it. There's just too many people who don't do self improvement, or at least attempt to work on themselves. It
Right.
appears that way anyway. And I think that it's a really important step that everyone should have more knowledge on and more access to.
I think it would be really nice if they taught this in school. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it would be
And
nice if
health.
we started, yeah, if we started learning about this when we were young children so that we knew as adults how to process shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I wasn't given the tools that I needed to process emotions. No
No,
way.
no way was I emotionally aware or ever encouraged to be emotionally aware. I was like, I had no self awareness as a child or a teen going through school. Like, you feel very isolated, you feel very alone, like you're the only one going through all this doubt or self hatred, you know? And
Right.
I don't know if the internet has helped change things, but I feel like for me it did. Like, I think I heard about shadow work because of YouTube, to be honest, because
Oh,
I follow a lot of witches and I follow a lot of people who talk about just self-help techniques
mhm.
and all that kind of good vibe stuff to learn and grow and heal. And like, when I started doing that, started being a witch and going on this path, that's how I was able to heal myself. So that
Right.
was just my personal journey. I felt like the witchcraft led to this in a sense,
Hmm.
because I think when you do the witchcraft stuff, it's just hand in hand with metaphysical. And I
Right.
think people kind of also make fun of that stuff. They call it woo woo, they call it silly or
Right.
too hippie, but it's like, no, man, this stuff's important.
It is. Yeah, for everyday life.
Hmm.
I remember when I had my divorce that I it took me to this place where I started analyzing all of the relationships that I'd ever had with men
Mm.
and any sort of sexual or love relationship. And it took me to this self help self help book I ran into that one of my friends was like, "Hey, you should read this," and it talked about how you should think of your house or your feelings as a house. That's what I mean. That you should think of your feelings as a house. So if you're if the levels of your house and the rooms of your house are cluttered with all of these things that you can't deal with, then how can you invite someone into that home? I mean, like, in reality, we don't ever want somebody to come over and see our dirty dishes in the sink or see the crap that we have laying about. So you have to work on that. And that's kind of where shadow work would come in. Shadow work shows you all the things that you have messy laying around that you really don't want um, to go into a relationship with.
But then, as a reminder too, like, clean up your messes in your mind, but remind
Yes,
yourself everyone has messes in their sink, everyone has messes in their homes, everyone has
yes.
messes in their minds. It's just important that we all work on it. Try to
And even
maintain it, stay on top of it.
and you can work on shadow work together. I think it would be beneficial for couples to do shadow work together in their marriage to see where their marriage is coming from.
Hmm.
There are so many things that you can use it for.
Yeah, when you said work together, it kind of makes me think of having long talks with fellow
Mhm.
women in my family, like you, my sister, some of my girlfriends that I've met and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes when you have a really heart to heart where you're just like, this is what happened in my relationship, and a girl's like, girl, I know this is what happened in mine. And it's like, oh, it almost mirrors itself as far as like behavioral
Yes.
patterns or things that went down. There's this healing that happens when you share your life with someone and you connect with your life on that someone and you can relate because you're accepting what happened. You feel like it's not that big of a deal. You laugh it off and you like move through it. For me, that's kind of sounds like shadow work.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that because I remember I've had conversations with all of you cousins
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, wait, we all have this one trait. Where
Mm-hmm.
did that stem from? And it made me
Mm-hmm.
look at our older family members and so on and so forth into the generations of our family to see where it stemmed from, because maybe some of that shadow is not.
Generational trauma.
Yeah, exactly, that's
Mm-hmm.
the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's 100% true because when we did start like all connecting, as more well-spoken little women are women, we get together
Hmm.
and we can kind of heal the past, I think, and talk
Right,
about things and realize
exactly.
we're in this together.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Yeah, we should definitely talk about all the benefits of shadow work. Something that will come from it is when you embrace yourself, you will have more of a capacity to embrace others, and
Hmm.
that includes embracing their flaws and kind of just like when they blow up or if someone blows up on you, you won't like react to it as much because you could see they're just projecting their bullshit onto me. It's nothing personal. I'm just gonna let them blow up, but I'm gonna stay calm.
Right.
Embracing other people has so many other benefits aside from that, but it's always easier to accept others when you accept yourself.
Right. I know I had some work issues a few years back where, before I started doing metaphysical work and doing shadow work, where a coworker blew up at me.
Mm.
And my first response was to freak the fuck out and run to my boss and, not even take responsibility for my own actions or my own words. And
Mm-hmm.
it I came across this quote, and it said, I can not control the things around me. I can only control my reactions to the situation.
Yes, preach. That is like every yoga sutra, I feel like. It's basically a reminder like you can't let the chaos of the world control you. You're in control of your
Right,
mind no matter what, and that's not
right.
easy, and it does
Yeah,
take work. That's why there's the word work in shadow work, you
yeah.
know? But
Because
you'll
everybody's got their own baggage,
mhm.
so you just have to accept them. You
Yeah.
can't control them, and you can't control their response.
Right. You can't make someone else do shadow work as much as I could preach. It'd be really helpful if you dealt with your issues, but like everyone's got their own pacing too. So,
Take your trash out.
exactly. Empty the recycle bin. Fuck. Yeah. So, yeah. But if you do it, you will definitely notice, I think, an improvement in your relationships with your partners, your family members, your friends, and even just your work colleagues. Because, like, if they're being dicks to you, you'll probably not care as much.
Right,
Um,
right.
Yeah. And when you put the work into yourself, it allows you to see the world with a clearer lens because you're seeing yourself with a clearer lens. Like, I think about myself, I always have like almost rainbow tinted glasses where I'm in this little fantasy world in my head a lot. And I feel like doing shadow work and looking at myself and has actually cleaned that up a lot and given myself a clear view on who I am, and I am seeing the world better, but I have a long way to go with that one.
Sure. It's hard to see the world realistically. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it's hard to see the bad parts of the world because we want
Mm-hmm.
everything to be so beautiful.
Especially when we
And
are tucked away in this beautiful little town, and like not a
yeah,
lot happens here that I feel like is as bad as some other places where there are
right.
larger chaoses, or even in other countries. You aren't as wise to the hardships.
It's easy to be naive to the world around us.
Mm-hmm. Another benefit too of shadow work is that you will notice a difference with your own energy levels and your actual physical health. I think I talked about that a little bit ago, but all that baggage, like I said, it drags you down, and it really can mess with your body in a physical sense. Like you could feel more lethargic. You could even have some sort of mental suppression that's leading to physical pain and disease.
Hmm.
So when you start dealing with all of your past baggage or your daily baggage, you're actually allowing your energy to flow freely, and
Right.
your unconscious isn't busy with dealing with all that bullshit. It's not worried about protecting itself constantly or in that fight or flight mode. It's in a more chill, relaxed state of conscious.
Right. I think this too, like if you think about all the, like I've dealt with an eating disorder pretty much most of my
Mm.
life.
I'm so sorry to hear
And
that.
yeah, thank you. But I've been working on it through shadow work for years, and I feel like I'm at a better spot than I've ever been. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm finally starting to see where the need to have an eating disorder came from. And so I feel like that shadow work could help benefit that part of you too.
Hell
We
yeah.
overeat, we undereat, we do all of these things
With
because
food,
of
for
these.
sure. I
Yeah.
know that after my divorce, I was just eating because it's a really good high to eat ice cream. And
Oh
I
yeah.
actually found out like there's a science to it where it like gives you a
Mhm.
boost of like I guess it's like adrenaline, but it kind of gives you this boost, like a high when you have ice cream. And so
Right.
like after my divorce, I was just, chilling with my ice cream every night and it felt great. But like that's not a good way to live because you are getting unhealthy. It's a lot of dairy, it's a lot of sugar. So you
Right.
gotta just really find the happy balance and realize, am I eating with my emotions right now, or am I eating because like
Mhm.
it's healthy and I need energy?
Right. Like I have to start asking myself, am I hungry or is an emotion that I'm having hungry?
Oh, that's a good question. Am I feeding the emotional beast right now? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love dessert. I'm not saying don't snack. I love snacking for
Right.
snacking's sake, but balance is hard. And I think that's a great point to make out if you do struggle with eating disorders. Shadow work would be a good
Hmm.
place to start with trying to heal yourself because that is a long journey for everyone.
Right. And I guess it goes more than just that. It could be drugs,
Mm.
alcohol abuse. It could be anything really that is some sort of addiction for you. It could be even
Mm-hmm.
shopping. There's some void that you're filling. And I've heard that saying a lot when I was growing up. Oh, if people do this, they're just filling a void.
Mm-hmm.
But what is that void? You have to
Yeah.
figure that out. And that's where shadow work would come in to help you with those obsessive compulsive ideas and disorders.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It gives you this sense of wholeness too. So they say that when you are someone who's practicing shadow work regularly, you're led to be more creative because you have the openness in your brain and the brain juices are flowing. So you'll get hit with that like boom, that creativity and that passion. And
Mm,
that's something I'm always drawn to. Like I know there was a point in my life where um, there was a cork in my creativity port, I guess you could say. And I
yes.
wasn't journaling, I wasn't painting, I wasn't drawing, I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that. And it happened after I moved away from Oregon to Texas. As I think there was just huge emotional pain there. And I didn't deal with it for a long time. And I think I'm still kind of clearing that one out and reopening it back and dealing with that shit as I move back here and healing myself in a sense. But I would love to just unlock all the creativity I had as a kid because there was
Yeah.
bounds and bounds of just me every day journaling, every day drawing. And I don't do that shit anymore. It might be because I don't feel like I have enough free time to do that, but I think that's just an excuse.
Right. We do create a lot of excuses for ourselves as humans.
Mm-hmm.
I still do on a daily basis. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to mow the lawn today because, X, Y, Z.
Right.
Yeah. But if I were honest with myself, it'd be like, I just don't feel like mowing the lawn.
Right. I'm
And
not
I don't
making it a
have to fix
priority.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another thing with shadow work is to be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Tell yourself the truth. Because if there's anybody that you should be honest to, it's yourself.
Mm-hmm. And it does hurt. And it
Mm-hmm.
is hard. So really
Mm-hmm.
prepare yourself. Know that it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be painful, but you will be better for it. Like a fucking phoenix, man. We're all gonna rise from our ashes and our tears, and it's going to be
Exactly.
beautiful. So I really suggest to our listeners, if you've never tried shadow work, try it out. If you feel like being a little witchy with it, go for it. I love it. I love to just light
Yes.
some candles, light some incense, use some color correspondence to heal, whether it be like pink for self love or maybe blue, green, white, black for taking away negativity kind of thing. There's so many cool
Mhm.
ways that you can enhance your shadow work. And that makes me feel like I'm on top of it. I am a witch. I am in control. That's kind of my, maybe a shadow. I love to be in
Mhm.
control, but it makes me feel prepared, like I'm ready, like I have my armor kind of, and I'm going into it
Right.
in a good place. And I'm going to give myself that 20 minutes that turns into an hour and a half of just meditating, crying, journaling, and
Yes.
healing. And I think that we can all start somewhere and we all find our own way of doing it. And I think it would be really cool if more people did it, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. That healing part is important. That when you are in that raw state of emotion, that once you're all done, allow yourself to fully heal. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know I said that earlier, but this is really important because I feel like there's been times that I've been working on something and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. And then I did not fully allow myself time to heal. And I went on to the next thing, and there were still things creeping up. Um, and I don't know if that ever goes away. I haven't, I feel like I've ended certain healings, but I'm still constantly going back
I think
to
that's
heal
okay.
certain
I think
parts.
that's okay because,
Okay.
like, let's take my most recent trauma, a
Okay.
separation of a life partner, a marriage, and all of that. Even if you both want to leave each other and you're like cool with that, it's still a trauma in a sense.
Sure.
And every month I keep saying, I'm doing better now. The next month, I'm doing so much better now. But like, I literally am processing and grieving and growing and healing in like micro doses. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think there would just be one session where it's like, I've let it all go and I'm completely healed. Because there's so much I'm unpacking. I'm
Right.
realizing, like, all these horrible things where you're just like, oh, maybe I didn't make the best decisions here or here because I didn't have self-confidence in this area and I wasn't thinking this. And so then you blame yourself and then you got to go back and heal that. And so there's guilt and shame and sadness that comes with a divorce. So there's a lot to unpack. There's so much shadow
Right.
there, and I'm trying not to let it get on top of me. I feel like I'm just taking it kind of slowly. So maybe it's okay for these big things. It takes us a while, I'm kind of trying to say.
Yeah. And oh man, that just kind of reminds me that I remember when my current husband and I got married, my old relationship was still seeping into this new one.
I bet
So,
I'm going to carry this shit into a lot of dating experiences and be a jaded person.
right. But my partner was able to help me along the way by pointing out different things in a constructive manner. So it helped me to know what it was that I needed to work on.
That's awesome. I feel like that's when relationships are at their best, when you're teaching each other and healing each other and helping each other grow. A partner is a really good mirror to look at sometimes because they will reflect your flaws kind of and be like, hey, did you know that you're being a bitch right now? Or like
Right.
whatever. And for them to be
Or even
patient
a
on
best friend.
healing is, yeah, it's a really great time in a relationship when I think
Sure.
any relationship, whether it be a partner, a family member, a sister, a friend, when you are holding each other through those hard times and helping each other grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really,
Because sometimes we're blind to our own shit.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I think that's why they call it the shadow, because it's like it's not something you really see. It's kind of lurking behind you. And
Yeah.
a lot of us are going to be in denial of our shadows. I know I'm in denial of probably a dozen right now, but
Right.
we'll get there eventually. Where hopefully I'm
Yeah.
unpacking all the little dust bunnies and moths out of my brain, but it's a
Right.
process. So be
It
patient
is.
and loving with yourself, I think.
Yeah. And forgive yourself.
Hmm.
Just forgive yourself for your flaws and accept yourself for your flaws.
Right. And is this guilt you're feeling stemming from some sort of religious system that was placed on you, some societal system that was placed on you? Like,
Or even
just,
personal. We put
yeah,
our own personal shit on ourselves.
true. Let's say, just an example, end of a marriage. Some people would take that as like, oh, that's my fault. I failed. I don't think I really personally did that, but I know that I've heard people who say shit like that.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, self
Right.
inflicting pain is definitely a trauma that we put on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that we
Absolutely.
were able to talk about shadow work in a way that's tangible in a way
Yeah.
that helps people, or at least explains the concept, or helps anyone who already knew about it kind of grow on their practice.
If you have
I
any
feel like
other
it's,
questions,
oh yeah,
I'm sorry, I
no,
feel
go
like
for
I
it.
always. I was going to say, and if you guys have any other questions, please ask us. Maybe we forgot something, we left something out, or you need more clarification on something, please ask us and we'll touch base on that.
Yeah, definitely. We're always happy to try to guide anybody who's got questions, and
Hmm.
we're all in it together. So the cousins Coven
Absolutely.
got your back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be said about shadow work, but we kind of covered the basics. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up for today's episode, and we will see you next Wednesday. That's when we'll have all of our new episodes coming out to you guys. And just a reminder, we are on Patreon now, so we do some after shows a couple times a month, and those are going to be over on our Patreon. You can also sign up for our newsletter at cousinscoven.home.blog if you'd like to just have a little surprise come to your inbox every now and then on witchy words of wisdom. Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, and may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.